What's going on, everybody? I've got the boss wife here, and we are in the Ford Mustang Mach-E. And the goal here is to explain a bit of what's going on. I dropped a video today on YouTube, and it got mixed results. It was pretty funny seeing the amount of people that thought that I had like given up on Tesla, or that I had been bought or sold out to Ford and Jim Farley by having the car. So we'll sneak peek at some of the things. So first off, let me explain why I have this and why it was even a possibility. There is a program called Ford Drive that I found out about 3 weeks ago. Got an email from Uber asking if I'd like to drive a Mach-E. Didn't really think anything of it at the time, but we had some conversations and it made sense as a way to bring new content to the channel, to try out an EV that we've been curious about, and to see how it compares to our 3 and Y. So I am not doing this because Ford gave me a vehicle and said, talk nice about our product. I'm actually paying $200 a week to do this. $800 a month. So yeah, this is not a Cyberlift is sold out to Ford kind of a thing. So I think we can put that to bed. Also, no, I didn't get rid of my Model 3. We didn't trade in any Teslas for this. This is on top of what we already have. And again, it is a way to have fun and try out something new and to see how this vehicle compares to our cars. So I figured we'll start out with the positives. You know, we'll kind of talk about what we do like with the car. You haven't had the chance to drive it yet, but we've been on, technically, this is our third drive, if you think about it. We went out last night in it and headed home. And what was the first thing that kind of drew you to the Mach-E? Because you were saying, like, you don't really care for Ford, but this car stood out to you.
Well, it just looks really good.
Yeah.
Comparatively, like, from an objective, well, subjective standpoint, obviously, I think that the Model Y looks good as a car. I think that the design is a lot better than the X, but it's still, they all kind of follow the same generic makeup with it. And if you look at a lot of other EVs, they kind of follow suit in certain design aspects. The little curvature, I mean, even though Prius is a hybrid, it's still super curvy, you know, like it's
sure, yeah, that kind of bubble shape.
Yeah, there's not anything exciting about a lot of the hybrid, but specifically EVs in that respect. I just think the look of it is very sleek, and I think that a lot of people look at it and don't automatically go, oh, that's an EV, which I think is,
oh, that's fair. Yeah. It kind of has a more standard,
yeah,
like SUV design. It does have an aggressive look to it, which I like. I like the Mustang design language, even though it can be a little polarizing to call a four-door SUV a Mustang. But yeah, no, I can agree that the styling, the look of it, it's the sharpest, the most appealing SUV that I've seen outside of Teslas. I like the ID4, doesn't really do much for me. It kind of has just that sort of bubble look to it. Fits in right there, I think, with the Kia Kona and the, what is the other one? Not the Ioniq. Ioniqs are not too bad from Hyundai.
Yeah, they're not terrible. Because isn't that what one of our neighbors has?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we have a neighbor that actually has a Kia EV6, which is pretty sharp too. The newer, kind of low, sleek hatchback, a black one. But we did have some neighbors that had Ioniqs as well. The sedan, the car, I will say, fits that sort of bubbly design. From certain angles it looks okay, other angles it's like, I don't know what they were thinking there. But I like that this doesn't, it's not too off-putting, you know. I can imagine a lot of people who are transitioning from the gas world jumping in this and feeling just fine.
Yeah, yeah. I think I always tell people that if they're gonna look at EVs and they want specifically SUVs, I always encourage them to drive a Tesla Model Y first. I don't ever suggest a Model X because I do think it's a little too aggressive of an EV.
A bit steep too.
It's just got all the bells and whistles, and
yeah,
not most people are looking for that. But then I just tell them to do that for the standard of what an EV should feel like when you drive it. And then I always say, like, but price range wise, depending upon what your price range is and what other bells and whistles you're looking for, I like the way that this, I don't know a whole lot about the Mach-E's in terms of what they offer and how it differs and blah blah blah, but I do know that it has good enough, I've heard good enough things about it from people who have who have driven it that have said they really like it. So
Yeah, similar to the kind of just legacy car atmosphere when it comes to the Mach-E and a lot of EVs that are coming out from GM and such, and even in Ford's F-150, there are so many trims. You have, and I don't even know all of them, but I know just from what I was looking at, you've got the Mach-E Select, which is the base model, no glass roof, rear-wheel drive, 247 miles of range. But then you have the Mach-E all-wheel drive Select. You have the Mach-E Premium, four-wheel drive, I think. Those might be the same. Then you have the Mach-E X, the Mach-E GT. There's a lot of trims. I like that Tesla keeps it simple in that regard. There's not, sometimes less options is better.
you lost me after the third one.
I know. I will say in line with our like of the aesthetic of the car, I think the colors are what do it for us in a lot of ways. Like you love, I think the red is your favorite.
Yeah, the red. Well, the red looks. It's not a bright red.
Yeah.
But it's not that kind of brown red that like a lot of companies use too. It's just that nice deep red. I guess I don't know colors very well. I know it's a variation of red. Somebody's gonna be like, it's burgundy or something. And I don't fucking know. But it's a nice red. 10 times better than that electric blue, which I know you like.
I do like the electric blue. I call it electric blue. I know Ford calls it grabber blue. I forgot already what the red is. Ford has a unique naming scheme for all their colors, like shadow black, absolute black. This is ice blue, which is kind of like an illusory silverish blue. Sometimes it looks silver, sometimes it looks a little bluish. I guess kind of like how if you hold ice up, it'll sort of change colors. It's really nice, especially after I gave it a bath. It looks really good. I like the GT's got the little black grille in the front to sort of offset all the colors, because unlike some vehicles, this doesn't really have that fake front grille that BMW is a huge example of, with that massive, nasty front grille they have. I'm not a fan of that. I don't know if you've seen the electric BMWs, the iX and the i4, I think.
Maybe. The only one I know is that one that has bicycle wheels, but that's the hybrid.
Oh yeah, that's the i8, yeah.
That ugly thing.
And the tiny little wheels. That's something actually this car kind of has in common, because it's only a 225, so they're really narrow. That's why I like the GT a little bit better. Aside from the outside, another thing that I really like, and that I actually noticed in my first video, is the ride is super quiet in blocking out external noises. You know, when it comes to our Model Y is a lot. Your Y is much quieter than Mute. The 3 is before the double pane glass and everything, so Mute at highway speeds, you get that kind of wind roar and the rumble from the road on the tires, and it definitely comes in the videos. I noticed with this, and I would expect it from Ford, having built vehicles for so long. The ride is super quiet, feels very well put together, confident build in that sense. I don't know if it's really stood out to you as far as the road noise.
No, I don't pay attention to that even in Bender.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm playing something. If there's not you
Oh, true.
You
yeah.
drive around with people, so you're not always playing music all of the time. So you do that a lot more often than I do.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I pretty much always have consistent background noise when I'm driving.
Now, you did mention when we were leaving the house that this car makes you feel sort of car sick.
Yeah, I noticed that. And now again, I haven't driven it, but I'm prone to getting car sick as a passenger. Typically it happens more often if I'm in the back seat. It's why I prefer not to sit in the back seat. Yeah. But I can get car sick if I'm in the passenger seat. And even last night there were just moments where the way that the car pulls, like if you hit the accelerator, the way that it accelerates is a lot different. My body reacts a lot different than it does in Bender. I like just started feeling sick to my stomach, and then when you did the
little U-turn,
the U-turn at the house, the way that the force or whatever you want to call it, I don't know words, was doing it, I felt it immediately, which was really weird to me.
Yeah, and that was a very low speed maneuver. Yeah. We were just crawling as we just got out of the neighborhood street.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I can fault the car for that, obviously, but possibly I can. I don't know. It just, I haven't ever experienced that specifically in the passenger. My passenger seat car sickness is typically relative to like very specific circumstances. Like I looked at my phone for too long.
Yeah.
Never just immediately in the car doing a very slow U-turn has that ever happened to me. So
Staying in line with the positives, I'll say that I enjoy the way the vehicle drives. You haven't experienced it yet, but the regen and all feels very similar to Tesla's. I do like that. I like that when you're coming to a stop, it doesn't feel a lot different than the one pedal driving that we're used to. And you have the option to turn that off, like you do in most vehicles. Given all the time we've spent in the 3NY, it feels really unrefined in my opinion, really sloppy when you don't have that sort of driving capability and your car just feels like it's going to keep on going. And generally, I do like the design language, the inside, the subtle things, the trim and such, just from a car guy perspective. I do like that we have USB-C and USB-A options for charging, wireless charging, all that jazz. What do you think of the seats? Do you feel comfortable in it compared?
I can drive to Vegas in Bender and get to the end of that trip, and I don't.
Yeah, like sore.
Yeah, I'm not sore. I get out and stretch just because I know I need to, but it's not the same as with Miu. That was not a good ride our first year. He's not a
little bit more cramped.
He's not a great long distance vehicle.
I will say from the driver's seat, it's not bad. I know the driver's seat usually gets more attention. Front seats definitely do than the rear. Because, I mean, I can, of course, be on the road all day in Miu or Bender and our 3 or Y if people are not following along with the names. Hours of driving, and I don't have that sore lower back where you're shuffling in your seat because you're just super uncomfortable.
Yeah, like I could see myself getting uncomfortable in this seat on a long period of time. It's not by any means is it an uncomfortable seat. I can just tell that in this seat I would get uncomfortable after a long period of sitting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I haven't really been in it long enough in one duration to measure, you know, that like the really long day of Uber and Lyft to see how it is, but that'll definitely happen. All right, I had to get out of that sunny. I'm sorry, that was a bad move to turn that direction. Anyway, to recap real quick, the point of doing this is to see how long-term ownership feels and heavy use. You know, a lot of you know how hard I've used my Model 3, 150,000 miles in 3 years, and I think that's a bit more of a valuable way of testing what it's like to be with a vehicle than, you know, an initial test drive or just using it to get to work and back. So we've talked about the things we like, and we're gonna go ahead and just, you know, be candid about the things that we're not so fond of. I don't know if you've got anything on the top of your head that stands out to you.
Yeah, I don't really like, I don't like the actual display in general. I don't like that it's a vertical screen. Because it just doesn't make a lot of sense. You actually lose surface area that you can work with. So obviously, like, if anybody who's been on your channel for a while knows, if you hit an app on a Tesla, not an app, if you go into settings or you need to do anything, obviously I understand this car has Apple CarPlay, which would be great if that was an option for Teslas, but it's not. But regardless of that, if we're in navigation right now and we needed to go into, you know, settings, the moment you click anything else, you've lost that.
Whole screen is taken over.
Yeah. Now, for navigation, it will stay
that's
on
true.
there, which, okay, cool. That's fine, but speaking from a personal point, I need to also see the road sometimes for where I'm going versus just the, hey, you're going to turn up here, which is what ends up being on that little screen.
Yeah, the written directions versus the visual,
sometimes, especially, everybody knows that there's random areas almost everywhere that you live where just the way the GPS does it, it's confusing, and just understanding what they're saying, or it'll say it's an unnamed road and there's actually a name, and you're trying to make sure you're turning down the right road because there's two next to each other.
Yep.
And you're like, crap, is this the road? Because this one has a name and it says unnamed, so now I don't know. So you lose that. So, like, you have to time it very specifically to go out of navigation if you need to do anything else on the screen.
Yeah, that's true. And then, of course, we have this.
That is the dumbest, ugliest feature.
Why? Why was this necessary?
Well, it's dumb in that it's dumb in the respect that you have something just right in the middle of your screen.
Yeah.
But then you also have the control on there.
Yeah,
anyways.
you have your volume controls here, and they made it to where if you tap to change the climate, then it will allow you to use this to do that. But you know what this looks like to me is added unnecessary complexity. You don't need all these dials and buttons to take over one function or the other. And what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, like 14 plus buttons over here that we have all that function in 2 in our Teslas.
You know what I didn't even think about yesterday when you were talking about this is, let's just say freak accidents with your screen, you know.
Oh, yeah, I've had my
It takes one thing to accidentally hit that in the right thing, and you've knocked that off and ruined. You're giving an unnecessary object that could be hit.
Yeah. And
cause damage.
Adding the chance for something to break.
The thing of it is like, I know I'm saying that, and probably a lot of people might think, yeah, that's like such a weird one-off. Yeah, it's an expensive, weird one-off.
It is. Yep. Yeah, my phone falling into my Tesla screen was a $1,400 one-off.
Yeah, it's a very expensive, weird one-off. And it's a weird one-off we've experienced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could go through the whole list of things you and I have uniquely experienced between our 2 cars. And even the guy at Tesla, when I took Bender in, I was telling him all of the little nuances, and he goes, oh, wow, you're right. You really do have weirdly bad luck with cars. And I was like, yeah, you try explaining that stuff to me. Half of this happened the day that I took the car for delivery. So, and I'm a 1 in a million in in the fact that I've had my battery replaced because I had a faulty battery. I mean, legitimately, we've had the weirdest of the weirds.
Yeah.
So to sit there and say like, oh, well, it's a weird one-off. I'm not, I went on a tangent knowing that nobody has said that yet. It's just I felt like I needed to explain why I think about the weird one-offs.
No, it makes sense. And I'm sure a lot of you are probably curious now about what we mean with all the issues we had with our Model Y when we took delivery. So, lesson learned, don't take delivery of a Tesla or any new product in Q4 of the year when everything is rushed. We love the car, but we definitely had some early issues. Our aero covers were forgotten and had to get sent to us. Our screen had a blue fractal line through it, so we had to replace the screen. We actually had a case where our battery was not communicating well with our motors and we had no regen. And that is what required us to get a new battery pack. Of course, all that was under warranty, thankfully, because Bender was brand new, just took delivery. And we've had ongoing issues with our hatch being not aligning properly and staying closed or opening when we wanted to, and you're still having ongoing issues with your Bluetooth.
Yes.
I don't know how many of you have had those issues where your car just won't pair up to your phone when you're right next to it and you have to actually pull out your app and unlock it to get into your car. It drives me crazy. Because when you're used to it just doing its job, the last thing you want is to have your hands full of something and then have to reach into your pocket to pull out your phone, to pull out the app, but whatever. Again, we went on a little bit of a rant there. But see, we're not all just positive about one or the other. We're giving you the actual user experiences we've had. On top of that knob, I'm not a fan in general of the material used for these. And this, like, Prindle in the middle with the parking brake and the hazard lights, all this stuff kind of in the center console. It feels like this could all be a lot more efficient. I mean, I love all the space we have up here where you can put the phone, wireless charging and all. That's nice. But just the awkwardness of where the placement is, and I feel like I'm going all hook here with my hand. Same with where the latches are to get in and out of the vehicle. You're just, I don't know, it feels awkward. It feels like they didn't really measure out where it would be comfortable to just kind of open the vehicle. I like the external button and the way the door pops out and you can just grab the little wing there. That's cool. But there's some things that seem to have been a bit of an afterthought. I mean, kind of going in with the Prindle idea on top of the push start button, these are components Ford can just eliminate. We don't have this kind of crap in our Teslas. We have our drive stock that there's a million buttons and switches on here, but for us, that's how we go into drive, park, reverse, neutral, super simple. Like, there's a lot of parts and material costs Ford could be eliminating and, you know, improving their chances of coming out of the decade successfully, they're one of the few companies that I think are going to make the transition well. You know, they had the guts to electrify Mustang and F-150, their biggest names. I have more faith in them than I do a lot of the other companies, to be honest. But there are definitely a lot of efficiencies to be gained, a lot of weird choices that were made when it came to how they designed it. Okay, since we are on the highway, the car's already yelling at me with the lane keeping when we were on that little lane they were expanding. We're gonna mess around a little bit with the ADAS system. This doesn't have Blue Cruise. Gotta make sure I don't say Blue's Clues, because that's all I can think about every time I go to mention it. So they told me that the 2023s have Blue Cruise, but that these don't. And usually when it comes to rentals and rideshare, for their own liability reasons, you know, typically they don't have like FSD in the Tesla rentals or Blue Cruise in this, which would make sense to me. But we do have the basic lane keep assist and smart cruise, adaptive cruise control. And it's not too hard. Got a little cruise control button on the side here. And you can see it says that we're ready with everything in green. We just tap that and it's already active. And in a second, you'll see a little blue bubble around the car, and that's its way of saying that it is in its ADAS lane keeping mode. It does not like there not being a hand on the wheel for long. It's already saying keep hands on steering wheel. It also doesn't like excessive curves, which I'm pretty sure some of you have seen in the past when Sandy Monroe was driving this, and I think the guys from Now You Know. But it's not too bad if you just kind of let your hand rest on it. It's similar to the basic autopilot that's in the Teslas. I haven't really experienced it too crazily in like rush hour, or like really coming down to stop and go and seeing if it can handle that. But it has made the highway stints of driving a bit more comfortable, and using this cruise control is like pretty much any legacy car. You have all the buttons set, reset, but it'll quickly nag you if your hand comes off. That pretty much covers everything I can think of immediately for the car, aside from the thing we haven't done yet, being that we're at 15%. We're gonna try and go charge this thing and see what the experience is like, and we're just gonna show you. So I just looking at the car, if we're getting low, I probably would see if it'll say, hey, can we go? Okay, cool, yeah, we got chargers here, so let's see what happens.